Where are we?
I know.
On the website, Shannon gone. We had still is being director of race.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's easier?
It's kind of a day, so that I can know what's
I've seen your picture, that's fine. I've seen you in person.
Yeah, we went to the hideout. Johnson. Yeah.
That's right. You, Mayor.
Yeah. That was smart.
Uh-huh.
What tax dollars? Your taxpayer dollars.
She's also was a mixture of state and local, city and county local.
I know.
Good morning. My name is Jim Bennett. I'm the director of the Department of Human Rights, and I chair the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes. The Illinois Human Rights Act was signed into law in 1979 at the Chicago Historical Society on the very desk President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Through Illinoisans' strong values and unwavering integrity, our state remains a trailblazer in protecting the dignity and equality of every person who calls this state home. Now the Illinois Human Rights Act is one of the most comprehensive and evolving frameworks of civil and human rights protections in our nation. And to be clear, it includes everyone. Our governor has always led on civil rights. In my tenure, he has positioned Illinois as a leader in human rights protections and has expanded protected classes under the Act to meet the challenges of our time, of this time. In 2021, the Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes was reestablished and placed under the umbrella of the Department of Human Rights to address, understand, respond to, and prevent the sharp rise in hate. We're national leaders in those issues now as well. And now as we witness our own federal government trample on human rights, creating fear for our neighbors and our families as they go to work or school or church, even to take their sick child to a hospital, champions of human rights have a moral obligation to take action. The Human Rights Act guarantees that every person in Illinois, regardless of immigration status, have the right to live free from harassment, violence, and discrimination. That is why today, Governor Pritzker is signing an executive order establishing the Illinois Commission on Accountability. And this commission, housed within the Illinois Department of Human Rights, will have the administrative and leadership support it needs to succeed, because this is fundamentally a human rights crisis. Now, with the Commission on Accountability, Illinoisans will ensure that transparency and the oversight of these federal actions that we're all witnessing in Illinois. This is about protecting human rights and restoring trust between law enforcement and the communities that they serve. This is about standing up for Illinois values when federal leadership has abandoned the American principles that all of us hold dear. And it is now my honor to introduce a governor who has never wavered in protecting the people in the land of Lincoln, our Governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you very much, Jim, and good morning, everyone. It has been over a month since President Trump launched what he calls Operation Midway Blitz. It's a military-style assault on Chicago and our suburbs. In the short time, we have witnessed countless acts of harassment and intimidation and brutality and abuse of power perpetrated against law-abiding civilians across our communities. Trump's masked agents have detained innocent American citizens and legal residents. They have used unmarked cars, a Black Hawk helicopter, automatic weapons, and battering rams to raid an apartment building filled with almost entirely, families and children. They've thrown tear gas and smoke grenades at peaceful crowds. Just yesterday, a Chicago alderman said a group of U.S. citizens were detained in Little Village and Cicero, including 2 of his staff members. We've seen this repeatedly, the demand for proof of citizenship without probable cause, with only the victim's skin color as a reason for the confrontations. None of this is about crime or safety. If it were, there would be coordination with local law enforcement and judicial warrants. In any other country, sending masked federal agents to intimidate its own law-abiding residents would be seen as a dangerous overreach and an abuse of power. Under normal circumstances, federal agency supervisors and inspectors general would enforce proper legal procedures and protocols and hold accountable those who violate them. But Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, and Greg Bovino have failed their oaths of office and allowed agents under their command to act unconscionably under the color of law. They have given the impression that their actions are immune from investigation or accountability. They are not. We have a duty to ensure that the truth is preserved so the public can know what their elected and appointed officials have done, and so the courts and the Congress can eventually hold people accountable. It is imperative that none of the impropriety, brutality, and harassment perpetrated upon our people goes unnoticed. Every instance of abuse, of law breaking, or violent and violations of rights needs to be documented and archived. Since this began, I have encouraged the people of Illinois to use their phones and to record everything they are witnessing and post it on social media. But we must now take this a step further and create an official public record. Across the board, President Trump and the federal government have dodged accountability and dismantled the institutions responsible for checking that corruption and overreach that they're committing. Trump has fired 17 inspectors general. He has installed cronies and sycophants at the Department of Justice who are willing to look the other way. His MAGA allies in Congress have enthusiastically ignored or approved of it. No hearings, no oversight, no checks and balances. And while states have limited abilities against federal immunity, we must remind everyone that this is not forever. There will come a time where people of good faith are empowered to uphold the law. When the time comes, Illinois will have the testimony and the records needed to pursue justice to its fullest extent. Today, I'm signing an executive order creating the Illinois Accountability Commission, a body dedicated to truth, transparency, and justice. The commission will be charged with 3 core missions. 1, creating a public record of the abuses. 2, capturing the impact on families and communities. And 3, recommending actions to prevent further harm and to pursue justice. The commission will be led by truly an extraordinary group of highly qualified leaders who reflect Illinois' deep expertise, integrity, and commitment to justice. With support from the Illinois Department of Human Rights, the commission will collect testimony, hold hearings, and gather information and firsthand accounts from individuals, community members, subject matter experts, local officials, journalists, faith leaders, and organizations. The commission and the records they gather will shine more light on the misconduct of Trump's federal agents. The Trump administration officials have demonstrated on more than one occasion that they are willing to lie to the public and the media to mask their misdeeds. They have already, and will continue to, cover up abuses of power, cross the legal limits of their authority, and attempt to justify dangerous attacks that threaten our people and our communities. We hope to reveal to the public, in Chicago, the state of Illinois, across the nation, and around the world, the facts on the ground about what is happening here. We intend to create a detailed record of the truth. And once this all ends, People of good faith will review what this commission has gathered and will demand accountability. Indeed, people are demanding that accountability even now. I'm glad to be joined here by members of the commission who all share a commitment to justice, transparency, and the rule of law. The Honorable Ruben Castillo will serve as chair. He served as a federal judge for the Northern District of Illinois for 25 years and served as the chief judge for 6 of those years. He served multiple terms on the U.S. Sentencing Commission, appointed by President Bill Clinton and then reappointed by President George W. Bush. He is a highly regarded leader who has received numerous law enforcement awards for his previous work in the Special Prosecution Unit of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Patricia Brown Holmes will serve as vice chair. She has experience on the bench and as a state and federal prosecutor, serving as a former associate judge in the Circuit Court of Cook County, an assistant U.S. attorney, and assistant state's attorney. I have also appointed 4 other commissioners, including Aurora Austriaco, commissioner of the Illinois Courts Commission and former commissioner for the Cook County Human Rights Commission. Professor Susan Zesch, former executive director of the Posen Family Center for Human Rights at the University of Chicago. Linda Tortolero, CEO of the Latino Policy Forum. And Cindy Sam, retired Chicago Police Department commander. I want to thank these distinguished volunteer leaders for their time and expertise in this very important cause. It takes a great deal of courage and commitment to serve in this capacity, and I am honored to have them with us in this important endeavor. The federal government has chosen to treat the people of this country as an adversary. It is pushing the boundaries of its authority, terrorizing our communities, and disregarding legal and moral accountability in the process. We will not meet intimidation with fear. We will meet it with truth. We can either let these abuses become our new normal and abandon the rule of law and our democratic values, or we can pursue real justice and accountability and transparency. We can do the work so those who break the law are held to account, so this chaos will stop, and so nothing like it ever happens again. Illinois is choosing our path, and I hope others who believe in the Constitution and the promise of America join us in doing so. The Commission has been tasked with finding opportunities to solicit information and allow the public to share testimony. To that end, I want to encourage all Illinoisans who have witnessed or experienced concerning conduct by federal agents to stay tuned at www.ilac.illinois.gov. I'm going to say that one more time, www.ilac.illinois.gov. Stay tuned there for details in the days and weeks ahead. Donald Trump is counting on your silence. We are counting on your courage. I look forward to taking your questions in a moment, but first let me hand the podium over to the Illinois Accountability Commission's chair, truly a leader and someone who will serve this state well in this role, the Honorable Ruben Castillo. Ruben?
Good morning. Thank you, Governor, for those kind words. I want to thank you personally for putting together this needed commission to serve the citizens of Illinois during this difficult time. We both remarked before coming out here that we wish this didn't have to happen, but it does. I want to give my personal thanks to my fellow commissioners who have answered the call to serve. I'm deeply honored to serve as the chair with my esteemed vice chair, former Judge Patricia Holmes. Let me just tell you what this commission will not do. We're not going to debate the status of immigration law. That is not our role. That debate should be taking place in the halls of Congress. And yet we see where we are. A Congress that cannot fund government right now, let alone take on the difficult issue of immigration reform. This commission is also not about politics. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. Some are going to try and paint it that way, but this is not what this is about. So let me tell you what it is about. This commission is about civil rights. This commission is about the Constitution. This commission is ultimately about human rights. There's a lot of law enforcement experience on this commission. I myself spent 30 years enforcing the Constitution. As a prosecutor, putting my life on the line here in Chicago, as a federal judge, and as Governor Pritzker remarked, as chief judge. What has this experience taught me? Well, this experience has taught me that there is no frustration or anger exception to the Constitution. Just because someone gets upset or frustrated doesn't mean that they can violate the Constitution and hurt people, detain people, seize people, and even shoot people. We've had 2 shootings here in the Chicagoland area. We saw Mr. Villegas Gonzalez lose his life while he was backing up his vehicle. This is something the commission will certainly investigate further. And ultimately, I'm sure this will be a question for a court somewhere, but we will make a record of that. And if all of you have seen the sequence of events with regard to that particular shooting of an unarmed man backing up a vehicle where the agent himself says he's not seriously hurt on tape, there are serious questions about that shooting and that killing. We've also seen a Miss Martinez on October 4th, shot repeatedly. How did that shooting go down? Well, just this past week, a supervisory agent says that all agents of ICE are ordered to wear body cameras. Before Judge Ellis even ordered that, and yet several of the body cameras with regard to that shooting event were not on. And then we learn that the vehicle that supposedly was collided upon was taken to the state of Maine. I will say this, in 30 years of law enforcement experience, pretty unusual events. And then we learn that the agent who did that shooting said something, expletive deleted, and then proceeded to use his automatic weapon to shoot this person repeatedly, even though she was not displaying any type of armed weapon at that point in time. So again, I will tell you, my granddaughter has a word for that. She would call it sketchy. And we will investigate that. But why people are answering this call from the governor is really to avoid these type of events. So the reason I'm here is because I don't want anybody else to be hurt. I don't want certainly anybody else to be killed. This just cannot be tolerated. I'm an old trial attorney, so I like to carry trial exhibits with me. I just brought one with me that I personally framed. This picture was on the Sun-Times. And I looked at this picture 100 times. Why is this man having a weapon pointed at him when he's surrounded by agents? What is the danger? How far away are we from him moving his finger in some fashion and seriously hurting a man who has his hands up? Is this the new normal? This cannot be the new normal in the United States of America or in Illinois. And that is what this commission will be investigating. So in the end, I'm glad Governor Pritzker mentioned shedding light. because I see the commission as a lighthouse. What does the lighthouse do? It sheds light on darkness. And there certainly seems to be, and I'm not prejudging this, a lot of darkness going around that we've all seen on videos, photographs like the one I just showed you. Secondly, a lighthouse is a beacon, and that's what I see the commission doing, is coming out with a report and making recommendations so that the interaction between the federal government, where I worked for 30 years, and the state government, where I have lived all my life, can be better. It doesn't have to be an invasion of a military force going into hostile territory. But one will need to look at, and this is something the commission will look at, how did this come about? Who is saying what? Who is posting what? What is on social media? What are the leaders saying? I think just this past week, Judge Ellis asked a very relevant question. Has any agent ever been disciplined for any type of misconduct? And the answer came back a resounding no. And I think, unfortunately, that same answer applies to across the country. As I stand here, I think back to 4 months ago at a press conference similar to this, a senator, a U.S. senator, got up and tried to ask a question and was shoved to the floor. Has the agents who did that on CNN television, have they been disciplined at all for that? We will look at that. That's all I will say. But in the meantime, I ask three things of the public. Be patient for this commission. Be peaceful. You can protest, but it needs to be peaceful. Keep taking, as the governor said, those videos. And we pray for your help. We pray for your cooperation, because we will certainly need this. And with that, I'm going to call on our great Lieutenant Governor Stratton. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I want to begin by thanking Governor Pritzker for his steadfast leadership during these unprecedented times. There's no better leader to steer Illinois as we navigate this crisis. I'd also like to thank the Honorable Ruben Castillo for meeting the moment and stepping up to chair this commission in the name of pursuing justice, accountability, and transparency. And thank you to all of the distinguished commissioners and other leaders standing with us today. Since the announcement of Operation Midway Blitz, ICE agents have operated in our streets with complete impunity. As a daughter and lifelong resident of the South Side of Chicago, it is hitting close to home. Today, I want to invoke the legacy of one of my sheroes, who once lived blocks from my home in the Bronzeville neighborhood, Ida B. Wells Barnett. Ida B. Wells was born into slavery and freed 1 year later. She was a trailblazing civil rights activist who, after the Springfield, Illinois race riots of 1908, helped found the NAACP. She was an investigative journalist who was committed to exposing the scourge of lynchings in the Jim Crow South. See, Miss Ida understood that what's done in the dark under the cover of night had to be exposed if there was ever to be real change. What I'm saying is that at our very core in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois is the strong, fearless, and courageous spirit of Ida B. Wells, who said these words: "The only way to right wrongs is to shine the light of truth upon them." So today, in Illinois, we are shining the light of truth on the harmful and unconstitutional acts of Donald Trump, his administration, and those who choose to remain silent in the wake of his power grab. The Illinois Accountability Commission will shine the light of truth upon how Donald Trump has weaponized ICE against our communities. We are shining the light of truth upon these masked agents who are terrorizing our neighbors. We are shining the light of truth on what we saw just last week on the southeast side of Chicago, where ICE agents threw cans of tear gas into crowds of peaceful protesters, firing pepper pellets and rubber bullets, targeting people who were simply holding signs and speaking out. We are shining the light of truth on Gregory Bovino, Trump's chief architect of this assault on our city, who has openly admitted to targeting people for just how they look, who yesterday led ICE raids in Little Village, causing crashes, patrolling with assault rifles, and detaining 2 of Alderman Mike Rodriguez's staffers, who were both U.S. citizens. And yes, we are shining a light on the death of Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a father of 2 young children, who returned to Mexico in a wooden box after being shot and killed by ICE agents. It's shameful. This is not law enforcement. This is not public safety. This is state-sanctioned cruelty without accountability. And the state of Illinois will not let this continue in darkness. Like Ida B. Wells implored us to do, we will shine a light on all of these wrongs. By the way, there's one more truth that I'm convinced will come out through the work of this commission, and that is the truth that there are far too many who continue to remain silent as they see our very democracy being dismantled piece by piece. Those who are watching the destruction happening in this country and not finding 1 ounce of courage to speak up. Now is the time for all of us to speak with moral clarity and say enough is enough. As you've heard, due process is not a political issue. Constitutional rights are not optional. Again, it is time to say enough is enough. When this administration seeks to dismantle the institutions that were built to hold power accountable, when it weaponizes those very institutions against the most vulnerable among us, it falls on us, the people and the states, to step up. And that is exactly what Illinois is doing. As far as we're concerned, one day there will, in fact, be accountability. Because no matter how dark the times, Illinois will never forget who we are or what this nation was meant to stand for. Thank you, and with that, I'd now like to introduce the Honorable Patricia Brown Holmes, a former state and federal prosecutor who will serve as chair on this commission.
Far be it from me to correct the lieutenant governor, but I'll be serving as vice chair.
Vice Chair, sorry.
We'll promote
Vice
it.
Chair.
Lieutenant Governor, Governor Pritzker, and Lieutenant Governor Stratton, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. I'm honored to be vice chair of this commission alongside my friend and former Chief Judge Ruben Castillo. I have served with him on other tasks before, including chairing his commission to appoint magistrate judges for the Northern District of Illinois. So we work very well together, and I anticipate that we will be mission-driven. We're in a critical time when truth, transparency, and courage have become more important than ever. As you've heard, our mission is twofold: to uphold the law and to uphold humanity. We're tasked with creating a clear record of what happened during Operation Midway Blitz, as well as other activities that you've heard that have been occurring throughout our state. We'll examine not just the actions taken, but their impact on the people and communities of Illinois. As you've heard, our goal is not political, it's constitutional. It's about protecting the basic rights of every person in our state and reminding everyone that due process, dignity, and equal protection are non-negotiable values. They're the foundation of our democracy. But this work is deeply personal to me, Governor. As a former associate judge who handled cases involving children and their families, I understand the fear, confusion, and trauma that these families are experiencing. We must meet that fear with compassion and care. We must rebuild trust between residents and those who are sworn to protect them. We need to listen, be transparent, and hold those accountable who need to be held accountable. We owe that to every Illinoisan, whether they're a citizen or an immigrant, who believes in the promise of this state. I'm very humbled to be a part of this commission with Chair Castillo and with all of our fellow commissioners. Together, we'll seek truth without fear. We'll pursue justice without bias, and we'll work toward healing without hesitation. Thank you again, Governor, for your trust in this work and for leading the way. And thank you to the people of Illinois for reminding us every day that justice and humanity are always at the forefront. Thank you. I'll now ask Commissioner Benito.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Lawrence Benito. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Since 2011, ICR has operated the Family Support Hotline as a way to connect immigrants in Illinois with deportation legal support and provide social service referrals. Leading up to Trump's inauguration, we worked with our community partners and a network of rapid response teams across Illinois to strengthen the infrastructure needed to meet this moment. In October alone, we have already received over 8,000 calls, which is our busiest month of the year, with 1 week still yet to go. On the hotline, we receive calls from across Chicago, the suburbs, and beyond. Hotspots have included the southwest side and the northwest side of Chicago, Waukegan, Elgin, Cicero, Bolingbrook, and Joliet. On a daily basis, we hear from community members directly on the hotline or via social media about ICE and CBP's violence against our communities. It is increasingly clear that Trump and his cronies are turning the federal government into a weapon against our people. And together, we are fighting back. Everyone has a role to play, from community members who document ICE and CBP violence and call the hotline, to counties and municipalities who have taken local action, and to the governor, who we are standing alongside today in support of this executive order and against the ongoing attack from Trump's increasingly regime-like administration. When we march in the streets, we have a chant, when our communities are under attack, what do? Stand up and fight back. Please continue to call the hotline at 855-435-7693 if you suspect ICE is present in your area, or if someone in your family has been taken by ICE or CBP. Remember, organized communities are safer communities, and together we keep each other safe. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce my colleague, Mary Meg McCarthy, Executive Director of the National Immigrant Justice Center.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Mary Meg McCarthy, and I am the Executive Director of NIJC, the National Immigrant Justice Center. With the staff 165, including attorneys and paralegals, NIJC and its pro bono network of 2,500 attorneys provide legal services for immigrants who want to reunite with family or seek safety from danger and persecution they experience in their homelands. Since January, all immigrant neighbors have become vulnerable targets of the Trump administration's unlawful and inhumane deportation scheme. Reminiscent of my experience living in Chile in the 1980s. I worked as a human rights witness in Santiago under dictator Augusto Pinochet. For more than a decade, his military regime violently suppressed public dissent, disappeared, and tortured the regime's political opponents. In 1991, the report of the Chilean National Commission on Truth and Reconciliation documented the deaths and disappearances of thousands of people under the Pinochet regime. This report became a critical resource as Chileans worked to reestablish democratic and human rights norms. When I returned to the U.S. in 1982 to pursue my legal career, I never imagined that one day I would be living through a similar authoritarian regime. But here we are. We have witnessed Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE personnel, and other federal agents detain people without warrants or probable cause and ambush a building in South Shore with an army of an outsized number of ICE agents. These actions violate the NAVA consent decree, which NIGC and the ACLU and its partners litigated. The NAVA decree prohibits arrest without a warrant or probable cause. NIJC's lawyers are working tirelessly to enforce that consent decree today and to provide legal counsel to people in detention. Because of ICE's tactics today, it can take days for attorneys to locate a detainee and provide legal consultation. And when we speak with people in detention, we hear dire accounts of medical neglect, overcrowding, and uninhabitable conditions. With today's executive order, Governor Pritzker is once again standing for the very principles that make this a great country. The executive order will protect the rule of law. I believe that the Commission will become an invaluable resource in America's quest for justice and durable human rights protections. I am honored to welcome Governor Pritzker, a steadfast defender of immigrants and the rule of law, and an advocate for all Illinoisans, back to the stage. Thank you.
We can't see. Down in front. Down in front.
Thank you. I'm going to take a few questions from members of the media. Shia, we'll start with Shia.
I have two, one on topic, one off topic.
Okay.
On topic, you mentioned that this information will be gathered and presented to people in good faith. Does that mean the Illinois Attorney General? Are you going to wait until there could be?
We'll issue a report publicly. There's a deadline in January for a report, so there'll be hearings, meetings, et cetera, between now and then, and a final report in January.
And then separately, can you tell me what you have said to Hakeem Jeffries, who really wants to see Illinois move to redistrict congressional seats?
I've suggested to him that he needs to talk to the legislators, the legislative leaders, most especially to the delegation, our congressional delegation in Washington, and that, you know, that's something that I know he's pursuing, and you know, we'll see whether the legislature has any interest in taking it up. I think that, as I've said all along, I think that the more that Donald Trump takes on this, you know, endeavor of redistricting mid-decade, which is really mostly unheard of, and doing it only for the reason that he knows he's going to lose in 2026 if he doesn't rig the system in his favor, that's something that should weigh on the minds of people who are considering whether or not Illinois should do something about it. Yes.
Raymond Lopez sent a letter to the president offering a sort of compromise, a path forward for knocking people who have legal, but then also kind of a push to the Trump administration to only really focus on those most violent offenders. Would you consider starting a dialogue with the president, instead of exchanging insults, maybe starting a dialogue to use that letter as a possible way forward?
Well, I have advocated for a long time for comprehensive immigration reform. We need a way to address the challenges of immigration in this country. We haven't addressed it for 40 plus years. And the result is that we have laws that are disjointed, that allow ICE agents to issue their own detainer orders. I mean, that's not heard of on the streets of the United States. You don't have police issuing their own detainer orders. They get a warrant, and then they go pick somebody up based on that warrant. This is not what happens with ICE, so that because of the failure of those laws. So I absolutely, and I have been very clear about what my views are about that. So have, by the way, many, many Democrats who believe that we need to secure our border. I mean, you don't have a country if you don't have a secure border, and make sure that people who are in this country, who are law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, who are paying taxes, who are our good friends and neighbors, good people, that they have a chance to stay in this country, whatever status they're given, but they have a chance to be in this country, maybe even to become U.S. citizens.
Would you consider actually trying to talk to the...
I'm always open to a conversation with the president. I will say that, when he does things like threatens to jail the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, the governor of California, et cetera, it makes it all the more difficult. So, yes. Hi, Olivia.
In your remarks just now, you said that there will be recommendations for actions to be taken after this. What sort of enforcement do you see this eventually maybe leading to? Like, what teeth could this commission eventually have?
Well, right now, what I would suggest to you is that we're seeing the judiciary as the check and balance, because the Congress is unwilling. So we need the judiciary to step up. And indeed, I would argue that some of the judges really are doing the right thing based upon the cases that have been brought to them. There will be more cases brought to them, in part because of the information that this commission will gather, I'm sure. So that is one way in which we can go about enforcing the recommendations, or at least, taking the circumstances that will be reported and putting them into action. That's one thing. And then I think importantly, we're creating here a record. And that record will survive long after perhaps this commission has issued a report. That record will help future leaders to just decide how they are going to hold people accountable. And I do want to say to people who are ICE agents today, who are CBP, people who are holding higher office, secretaries in the administration, that if they do not follow the law, they will be held accountable. And there will be archives and records of what happened here. And we will know and be able to take action. The first time, by the way, I think, aside again from the judiciary taking action, will be when Congress changes hands and there are actual hearings about these things. That, why are there not hearings now? It's because you have a whole bunch of sycophants in the Congress. They like to, the reports, in the media are that, they're afraid. Well, if you just sit here and do nothing while the democracy that we all know and love goes away, then I think you're committing more than just, an act of fear. You're actually a collaborator in the endeavor.
Governor Pritzker.
Yes, sir.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
First on topic. You say that the commission will be holding hearings. Will the commission, under this executive order, have subpoena power? And if not, how will the commission compel people to testify if necessary?
It will not have subpoena power, but it will invite people to appear. And so, yes, there may be people who refuse to appear, but then there perhaps will be one side that's represented, not the other. And I think, again, we're collecting information putting it in the record and making sure that we've got that permanently available to the public and to the judiciary and anybody else that wants to look at it.
And then quickly off topic, I'm wondering if you've been able to reach or have a conversation with Senator Bailey.
I have not reached Senator Bailey, and I appreciate you raising that. Some of you may know that he lost his son, his daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren in a helicopter accident in Montana yesterday. And I cannot imagine losing a child, losing 2 grandchildren, and what they must be going through. That's all I can say. I have expressed publicly already my condolences, my wife's condolences, that we're devastated by it. This is not a time for politics. This is just a time to recognize that losing a child is, I don't know, one of the hardest things ever. My grandmother lost her daughter, my mother, when she was an adult. My grandmother's still alive, and it was her only daughter, and she was devastated by it. My grandfather on my father's side lost his son, my father, at an early age, and he was devastated by it, my grandmother and grandfather. And so I know, I've not experienced it, thank God, but I know what they must be going through. Yes.
If I may ask, and to the point that you were making before this, is the fact that you've gotten to the point of having to create this commission, a recognition that in the present, you're not going to be able to hold federal agents accountable for their actions.
Well, remember, we're talking about the Constitution here, right? And the states have a certain role, federal government has a certain role. We're following the law in Illinois. Right. And so when people ask me, well, are you going to go after them? Well, we're doing everything that's within our power to do that. In the end, you need people in the federal government, because remember, these agents theoretically have federal immunity, except, of course, with regard to their superiors, the inspectors general, the agencies that they work for. If those leaders are unwilling to hold people accountable, and remember, we have a president of the United States who pardoned all the people who committed the crimes on January 6th. And that's just one example of the kind of, disregard for the law that this administration demonstrates. That when you have an administration like that, we have to take things, very seriously at the state level and look forward to a moment when the judiciary will act. And we've done that. By the way, we've taken these cases to court. I want to commend the Attorney General of our state, who's done just a superior job in defending people's rights. There's more to do, and he's going after it. We are going after it in every way that we possibly can. That's the accountability and the record, and I'm pointing at the leaders, but all of the members of this commission. The record that they are going to create and that the people who come forward will create will allow accountability to be had. Yes. I'd love to, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Ruben, I'm going to hand over, but I just want to say, one of the things that I've asked, as you know, from the public, even people who, don't want to be protesters or get involved in some public way, take video. It's the easiest thing people can do. It's an activist and it's a protest of its own, just to take the video and make it available to the public. But I'll ask Ruben.
First of all, I'll second that. The videos need to continue. We have a good collection of videos already. A lot of people are helping with regard to that. But in direct answer to your question, every single thing can help. Testimony, accounts, anecdotal. This commission will follow the facts in terms of how these situations develop. There's always going to be conflicting accounts. There's always going to be this so-called he said, she said, they started it. But we want to know, and I think part of the root of that problem that I can see is what's coming down from the top, and is anything being done when misconduct occurs? Because if misconduct is allowed to continue, or if misconduct is being encouraged from the top, that's just a fundamental problem. And a lot of what we've seen so far encourages misconduct. Covering of the faces, the attire, the equipment, whatever is being told before these things transpire. It's almost like, I suspect, and we will find out, locker room talk. And then you go out and play a very aggressive game. And this is not a game. Lives are being lost. But I saw, for example, Mr. Von Vino had no problem being on Fox News last night saying that his agents were extremely professional. I would invite Mr. Von Vino to come before this commission and explain that. Yeah.
Are you concerned, I guess, or do you have a plan for the private identity?
Definitely very concerned, especially with regard to individuals who don't have full legal status in the United States. That's a big concern. We will work with our attorneys to deal with that. But on the other hand, there are a lot of U.S. citizens that are being abused that I can see. I saw a WGN producer treated in a way that should never have happened. And I don't know if there's any discipline for that. It certainly doesn't appear to be forthcoming when Mr. Bonvino says last night they're being extremely professional.
From a human aspect, looking at the plethora of videos showing those that are experiencing things and those that are documenting it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen them yourself. How do you feel in witnessing something like this in the time of the recording?
There's an expression that originated with Martin Luther King Jr., and it's, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It doesn't feel in this moment like it's bending toward justice. And indeed, I guess I would offer humbly an amendment to say it only bends toward justice if we bend it that way. And when I see people being stopped because of the color of their skin, and people are being demanded to prove their citizenship. I don't know about anybody in this room, but do you carry proof of citizenship? Have you ever carried proof of citizenship, all the citizens in this room? Nobody carries a proof of, well, okay, somebody raised their hand because you may be afraid right now. That would be the reason why you would carry it right now. But this is something that happens in authoritarian regimes. Does not happen in a democracy, does not happen in this constitutional republic, except now. People are being demanded to show that people, and it's because of the color of their skin most often. And they're literally a military attack on a building, with a Black Hawk helicopter and people rappelling out of that, people wearing uniforms and automatic weapons. Oh, by the way, they set up cameras so they could capture it all on video so that they could, declare victory or take some triumph out of most of the people in that building, 130 people, vast majority of those people here legally. And they were aiming, they said, at Tren de Aragua. Great, please take the gangsters, take the drug dealers. Great, but that's not how you do it. That's not how law enforcement carries out its mission. You get a judicial warrant. You target the people that you want, and you arrest them with that judicial warrant. You don't arrest an entire building, detain everybody, zip tie children, elderly people held in a U-Haul for hours. U.S. citizens. I say it like other people don't have rights. Everybody on the ground in the United States has rights. They do, just by virtue of being here. You might get deported, you might. But while you're here, you deserve due process, probable cause, all the rights that Patricia mentioned. These are, I am angry because this is not the country that I want for us. This is not the country that any of us thought that we were living in. And yet, here it is, 9 months into an administration. We are having to have millions of people stand up and declare no kings. And we've had to do things like create the judge was saying, before we walked out here, wish we didn't have to do this. I said that to him. I wish we didn't have to do this. Can you imagine that we have to do this in this country? a commission on accountability for the things that ICE is doing. So I'm quite upset about it. As you know, I'm taking as much action as I possibly can, and I just won't stand for it, and I will in every way stand in the way of people's rights being abridged in this country, and especially in this state. Okay, thank you all very much.
Pictures.
Oh, we're going to picture here? Okay, got it. Where do you want us to do what I'm told?
We're gonna follow Tina.
Can I have everyone shift to your left just a little bit?
This way?